Bam! Old series, full on name, title, freaking silhouette drop. This chapter had a lot of things going on in terms of like the large scale story. I say the large scale story, but like at least from what we have so far, like this is one of the most, I'd say, plot and content moving chapters so far for the series. Like we were only what, this is chapter 22, I think 22, and we we don't have the massive overarching plot. I would assume it's gonna have to do with the Four Knights stopping Arthur and defeating Arthur, but it it was something that we got this week that just said, okay, like, prepare yourselves for what's on the way, especially not just from like the stuff with Arthur, because I would assume Arthur's content will be much further down the line, but with the other characters, like getting to know the other three members of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, finding out what their crew and what members of their group are going to be like, and seeing older characters that make references and cameos within the series. It's well, we're at like a like a calm before. I don't want to say calm before the storm. Calm before the content chapter, because we're probably not just gonna end this whole thing on Arthur. I'm guessing the next chapter might open up and we might see a little bit more of Arthur and Merlin before we end up getting back to what everything's like going on. Wherever the main cast essentially is directed. I can't even say like everything's going on, because it's like we don't even know what the other factions and groups are within the story, like where that we only really know Percival's group, but they've knocked the helmet off Ironside as the chapter starts out, and Ironside looks like he was getting ready to really lay it in on him. He's I just have to kill you guys, get the pieces again, and do it again. And if it doesn't happen to Sistana, I can literally do it to any other town or place that I feel like is sufficient and worthy. Like he's giving some pretty fair and logical wording just on on the actual reality of what's going on between him and Percival and the main cast group. But right before he's about to go in for another attack, he gets stopped by this other guy, Mortlock, and this guy's got a really weird helmet. Like his helmet has his helmet has like the normal eye holes and stuff that it's got like a design to see through, but also has like a monster face and horns on the top, unless it's supposed to be like a crescent moon or something. I'm assuming they're horns. But this guy, he comes in, he's pretty much telling them like, listen, you're fine where you're at. You don't really need to worry too much about it. But one thing I want to point out is like that they said like the dead or like the chaos creatures that you summoned were of a greater level. Look at, they got wiped out pretty quickly. So the only people that really would be able to accomplish such thing are the legendary Seven Deadly Sins, and we do mention like, or someone with as much fighting power. So referring to someone like Zeldris or somebody who is capable of contending with them, but isn't outright a member, or in full scale, I guess you would say like as a contender, because it would probably be the lowest, like somebody who's a contender for Diane, because Diane is not that powerful. She does her whole earth dance and stuff. Gauthers is more an axe, like he's capable, but like somebody surpassing him, I don't see really that crazy of an idea. I'm guessing it's the like around power with some of them kind of thing, and it could be somebody no stronger than most of them. I doubt that some random character along those lines would be stronger than Meliodas. I assume the only characters that for sure are going to be stronger than Meliodas, and pretty much anybody maybe that you can kind of say within his range of just strength and whatnot. The only people I'd say are the Four Knights and Arthur. Those are the only people I would assume. I almost said four, but it's like Four Knights and Arthur, 5 people. But they are the only ones that logically would be above him for sure. Like there could easily be characters above him we just haven't got to yet, or haven't, like, for whatever reasons, haven't been revealed in the story. But the ones that I can safely assume will be above Meliodas would be the Four Knights and Arthur. Arthur's for sure. We saw where Arthur was at the end of the series, barely having grasp on chaos. And then if any of the Four Knights is going to be stronger than then Meliodas is definitely going to be Percival. It's just the main character, makes sense. But after that point, we got this guy, like he's doing his thing. He's like, all right, listen, we got to get out of here. We might even have some stuff to do. So they end up pulling out, doing their thing, and leaving. And he's saying, you're duty bound not to let any of the Knights of the Apocalypse get away, but the mystery enemy who defeated the dead is the real problem. So he's acknowledging that if somebody is on level with one of the Seven Deadly Sins, that they can't take them. So at least that's something. That's a good confirmation. If you know that, hey, somebody, it might be one of them or somebody at their level, and your response is, yeah, we probably have to leave. It's at least giving us a knowledge point of where these guys stand. Because I don't think anybody thought the Ironside was as powerful as Meliodas. But, no, I could see them being not like Seven Deadly Sins range, but being at least like a contender. Like, if he could put Meliodas to a decent level of difficulty, I could see that. But anybody at their level, they're just like, yeah, we're just gonna leave. We're not even gonna bother with this. Nothing we could really do. We're gonna skedaddle out of here. And there's like a moment of like eyes locked before Ironside leaves with Percival, or to Percival, and then Percival lands everybody, and they're just like, wow, we dodged a bullet in that fight. We're good. They all look like they're in a bad spot. Like not like bad, but it's just like they just got out of like a spot where they're probably all tensed up. Tensions were high. They were worried. They didn't really know exactly how things were going to go down. But at the point, they all seemed pretty happy. Percival was like really ecstatic that his team worked together, and they were all able to do what they do. Sin comes back, and they're trying to question Sin. And they're like, "Oh no, as my friend, Animals from the Forest, is the one that defeated those guys." I feel like that statement isn't entirely true or false. Like, there's probably something that Sin can do that didn't. Like, if it was like, imagine if Sin is some form of nature spirit, and Sin went and absorbed a bunch of the magic from like the forests, so maybe it's something just they could do, and then went and destroyed all of these, chaos manipulated dead people. Or something like that. That'd actually be really cool. Because it would give some good explanation, at least somewhat, on Sin, but also it would explain, like, oh, you could have somebody that powerful nearby. But also, Sin's whole, like, wording, I just feel like is not entirely false. But they're just, like, kind of talking, trying to get some information, nothing that crazy. Percival's commenting on, like, his cape got, like, back to normal size. There's the funny parts where he's, like, poking Nonsense in the back, and obviously Nonsense is going to be a little bit bothered by that. Just having, like, a funny moment. Because the dude's got his back exposed from like an attack, and they're just seemingly all right for the most part, but primarily just some funny jokes. And then Percival mentions he's got to take a shit, and decides to run off. But it looks like he's more just wanted to be alone. He's sitting there thinking about Ironside's face and how he looks like his grandfather. And that's when the end of the chapter zooms into this. It's like it's essentially the castle that Arthur's gonna be in. Not Camelot, but I don't know if he's just part of Camelot. Either way, it's like this weird big circling of like vines and leaves or something, and in the middle is this castle. And that's when we see Arthur talking to Ironside. And Ironside isn't just the only one there, because we also see Merlin. Merlin didn't have any real lines in the chapter, but Arthur is like, if you see if you see the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, and you can tell him that if you want to destroy the Arthur Pendragon, then you're more than welcome to try. It's definitely not the best choice of words. Like, they're going to eventually come for you, dude. They're going to eventually come after you and take you down, so I would hope you remember to think back on these words when that day happens. Either way, I personally do not think that Arthur is all right in the head. Like, he looks normal, at least from, this panel, like, at least how this panel specifically looks. I think he's going to have to be crazy, because he's definitely giving off, like, a bit of an evil guy vibe, and he himself isn't evil, and we know he's like a really nice dude. So if it was him, prior to like his first introduction, we know that he'd just be a really good guy. I doubt he would want to have any beef with any of the other races within Britannia and whatnot. But I'm guessing with the way that he's been presented and stuff, that he is going to actually be a lot more like villainous, a lot more malefic as things go by, maybe a little bit more chaotic and crazy. But the Merlin being the chapter actually was also really. Like, it just really was unforeseen. I didn't see it happening at all. It was they caught me off guard drastically, and she didn't have any talking lines, but it was just interesting to see them again. If Merlin, like, this is another series, I feel like Merlin's character would have had part of her face shaded, and we like one of those ones where it's like that's like 99% her, but for some reason they didn't show the face. He was perfectly fine with just showing Merlin, and I think Merlin had like a scarf on or something at one point, but it's very clear that's Merlin, and that's when we get this Arthur set up. Arthur looks relatively the same, which, again, I think might also have to do with it, because he was like in his early 20s or something. And like, there's a good visible gap, like, between, like, your early, maybe, like, late teens, early 20s to, like, your, like, a good chunk to middle 30s. I feel like it would be way more visible. So it's probably, I mean, it could also just be, hey, it's fiction, but also probably have to do with his powers and something along those lines. So everything that went down for the most part just kind of like summed up on that brief moment, but like before like the tensions kind of like got halted by this Mortlock guy. Like everything else for the primarily wasn't like set for it, and then we got like a lot of nice kind of character stuff between the main cast and then this obvious big information dump and this big story piece that came at the very end of the chapter. But anyway, other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, befriend the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But other than that, I appreciate everyone's already subscribed. Thank you all for listening. Bye.